Hello everyone, I am here to share my end of the week reflection for my B483 class. We are just finishing our 13th week and we have one more week to go before our finals. Over here it's still been really hot in Southern California, so I've been trying to have a fan on, which I did turn off for this, that way you can all hear me. So for this week in our course studies, we were essentially focusing on only one case study, which was kind of a nice break. And our case for this week was the Keurig Green Mountain negotiation case study. For this case study, essentially what happened is we were broken up into teams for our groups, and I was able to partner with one of my group members, and then the remaining two were in another partnership. And our goal was essentially to negotiate with each other as the companies pertaining to the case and try to see if we could find a deal that could be made for a partnership. And I really liked this case. It was nice. I definitely had a lot of fun with it because I was able to learn a little bit about the market for coffee brewers, as well as how essentially the little single serving cups were able to essentially kind of come into the market. It was pretty cool. One of the challenges I had this week was definitely trying to figure out how to, first of all, basically start my argument for my negotiation plan. And what I mean by that is essentially I had to figure out which option was going to be best, whether Keurig should invest in creating its own brand name called True North, or trying to partner with Green Mountain and see if the profits as well as the costs were worth it to Keurig for them to invest in. And it turned out that if Keurig were to go and invest in its own brand name, which would be called True North, they would only make about 3 cents profit per cup. And that definitely, to me, was not enough for me as a company to go and invest in creating their own name brand. And then I found out for the Green Mountain company, they were able to save a lot more in direct costs of production, which was ultimately one of the biggest deciding factors in me wanting to kind of root for the Green Mountain team, besides me also being placed on that team. So for me, when I was able to go and do my calculations, I was able to find that having only 2 cents more for the price per cup for the cost, as well as, or the selling price I should say, and also the direct cost in being able to produce these single serving cups, it would be 5 cents cheaper, which would ultimately result in a lot more profits. And per cup, they would earn 10 cents more. So I'm like, yeah, go with Green Mountain. That was probably one of the hardest challenges I had, like I said, but it was definitely kind of the most rewarding because upon finding out all of that information, it made it so much more easier for me and for my partner who was all on the Green Mountain team to be able to devise a plan of action to a degree that would make it to where not only our company but also the Keurig company would be able to be profitable. So with our negotiations, we essentially just focused on how much we would be willing to pay Keurig for a royalty fee, which we thought about, maybe like 15 to 20% was decent. That way both of us are still able to earn a decent amount of profit to make it kind of worth both of our time. And we also were able to not quite get exclusive rights to a degree. We were able to work out a negotiation with our fellow partners, and what happened is we got exclusive rights in being able to be the first to kind of share the product with everyone else in the regions that we were most commonly operating in and where we had the strongest market share. But then in newer places where we didn't quite have a reach on it yet, we were offered a little bit more exclusive rights in that we would be given a first priority, but we would also be able to, of course, deal with competitors, which for Green Mountain, that wasn't really as big of an issue as Keurig thought it would be. So that was awesome. And essentially, that's basically what I was able to kind of learn. Some of my main takeaways for this week and questions that I would definitely love to have in my little tool belt for future case studies is, number one, when you're trying to decide between negotiation plans on whether to create your own brand or to try and create a licensing agreement, how much is it going to cost you as the company to create your own product. Is the profit that you would potentially be making worth the investment? And if not, how can you find a deal that would be able to allow you to make enough profit but also be enticing enough to have another company kind of agree with you to form a partnership? And then number 2, this isn't really so much as a question, just essentially a guideline. Whenever you are reading a case that has a lot of notes and a lot of figures, write it down and make a chart. It makes it so much more easier to figure out what exactly is going on with those numbers and where in the case you can find it and how it relates to the decisions they would make. Like I said before, this case study had a lot of numbers and a lot of figures, and they were for 2 different companies. So to me, it was difficult in trying to figure out what went where, and so a question or rule that I would have for future case studies is create a chart, have one chart for one company with all of their information, and then where to find it in case you need a reference, have a page number there. And then for the second company, do the same. It will make your life so much easier. So thank you all for being here for my B483 week 13 reflection. I have 1 more week to go. It'll be finals next week, and then I will be done for this semester. So I hope to see you all next week. Have a good night.